Hello, Benedict.
Yeah,
How are
hi.
you today?
I'm fine. It's shitty weather, but yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. We've had rainstorms here. It's kind of nice having some variety. Okay, so we're going to dive into your portfolio. I'm just going to switch right over here directly, and I don't know which one you want me to cover.
Let's look over the paintings first, and then go
Okay,
over the
all
videos.
right. So you've got the goo coming out of the skull, and then the plume of smoke at the bottom, right?
Yeah, you already give me some amazing notes on there. The um, purple doesn't work and so on. And smoke is really hard for me.
It's a tricky one because you want to make it feel volumetric and like have a shape to it, but also it's all fuzzy around the edges, right? And
Yeah,
so it gets very tricky and elusive. Okay, so what's interesting about this is you've got this green sort of halo around the whole thing
yeah.
that really feels like smoke, but also feels like glow, and I'm not sure what it is. So I would put a stake in the ground and say, this is glow, or this is smoke, or this is glowy smoke, and
Mhm.
then lean into that and make it feel like that. So that'd be my first recommendation is like distinguishing this outer stuff from this inner. Now, if you want the inner part to be stylized like in a similar fashion to the outer part, so you want it to be kind of this fuzzy thing with like some subtle noise in it, then you can do that with the smoke in here, and that's not a bad thing. The key is going to be getting some definition in here, right? Because right now, this all feels more or less the same. Let me see if I can bring up some Photoshop for it here, just to, because like sometimes when I get stuck on a painting, it helps for somebody to do a paint over real
Yeah.
quick for me. So I'll bring that up. This is loading, Photoshop's loading, save image. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. Bear with me for a second.
Don't worry.
It went away. Thanks, Windows. I clicked it too many times, so now I had to just manually navigate. All right. Anyway, should be up anytime now. Okay, here we go. All right. So if I come in here, I'll just create a new layer. And this is going to be pretty rough, sketchy
Yeah.
stuff. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but let's see. All right. So like if I want this to be purple, um, like the dividing line can be much more uneven,
Yeah.
and the highlights as well. Okay. So I can make it kind of puffy. And then you can come in with an eraser and put some like transparency on there so that it has, a bit of a softness to it.
Oh yeah.
And notice that my brush strokes are following like the curvature of the form.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I can come in with like some of that darker tone that you've got as well. Right. I need, is the shape dynamic? It is on. Okay. Sometimes I don't know. Oh, I actually like that one. It felt good. Just to like give it a little bit of form and definition. And then I can go back through and erase that out. Which is now kind of awkward because there's sometimes a little bit of green underneath there. All right. This is a super sloppy way to work. My layers aren't, but you get the idea. Okay, now if I wanted green to kind of like poke through some of these seams, well, I'd probably go down below that layer. I'd probably want it to be a little more soft and diffused and not so hard edged, because if it's sitting on top of smoke, it's not going to be like it might have a crisp edge here or there, but it's generally going to be like casting soft light up onto it. And
Yeah.
so for that, you're going to use a little bit of a smudge so that it feels like it's, and don't smudge everything,
Yeah.
but smudge enough so that it feels, like it's softly sort of merging in with this stuff. Okay, and then I can lock that and then add a little bit more of this like hot stuff that you've got going on so that in its core it can feel a little more glowy. Just little touches in there so that you start to see that wispiness to it, right?
Yeah.
And then if I wanted that same sort of vapor feeling coming out here, also I think you could go a little more saturated. Make it feel a little more, let's go darker.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest problem I had. The smoke in um pretty bright gray, and then just I don't know what this was, uh, inner glow or something with this purple color, and then just made the whole thing glow, and didn't work out so well.
Yeah, so you could do something like that, just like then it feels like the ambient smoke is tied
Yeah,
better to that. And then, of course, if I'm going to be doing that, then I need to come in um, and get these sort of super crisp shapes to feel a little less so
yeah,
at times. Like it's okay if they, like it's all just a matter of stylistic preference, honestly. Like the shape making that you do is going to be the same regardless of how blurry you make it. You don't want to evenly blur it. That's a very common pitfall to easily fall into. Um, but like coming through and leaving some edges sharp and then like fuzzing out some others, you start getting this nice painted vibe. And again, this is just one of many styles that you can
yeah,
choose from, but start to see how that comes together. I'm going to get rid of a lot of these little tendrily bits. It's probably my least favorite part about the composition that you had was like was these little things that um, they're so skinny and consistent that it
yeah.
just takes away from the organic vibe of the whole composition. So it looks more or less terrible, but let's see here. Oh, sorry, my microphone got 1 second. So sorry about the mic noise. Like coming all the way over here. My cord is catching on things. Okay. So now if I come in here, I can add like a highlight. Oops. I don't know if that's the color I want. I guess we'll find out. We can always shift it later, right? No big deal.
Will be fine.
What's one more color in here, right? And so, yeah, you can come in and just say, maybe I don't want pink. Maybe I want them to be green, right? And this is the fun part about painting is you can just play around
Yeah.
and just see. Yeah, that's actually kind of fun. So I can now unlock my alpha and proceed with that highlight color. And it's got kind of these bruised greens down in there as well. And that'll tie it all together really nicely because
Yeah.
then it feels like the goo itself is casting a light up. This is as Bob Ross would say, a happy accident. Why not green? So now I'm getting very even blur across all of this, and I can fix that with an eraser, right? It's all about the balance of like fuzzy parts and then crispy parts, just to make it feel like it's painted. Something like that. I don't know. So having fun with the process here is key. Like tweak this, change that. When you get too tied up in the details, like I can see here, you did a lot of time getting all that fine detail just right in there.
Yeah.
Um, you can tend to get lost in that, and then it becomes busy and it becomes a bit too much. Yeah. Versus the whole thing coming together as one big piece. Helpful?
Yeah. Looks way
Cool.
better.
Cool. All right, let's switch back over here again. All right, so we've got this thingy majig coming on down. Tell me a little bit about what you're going for, and I can center my feedback around that.
I was like later in the video I have a particle where an energy sphere hits the target and creates this dome like structure and sucks everything in and explodes. And I wanted to make that into a concept. So the particle was first, and I saw this art
Okay.
on the forum, and I basically tried to copy it and make a few changes. And the biggest question I had is if you have a um, like black hole or something in the middle you want to emphasize, but the most focal part is the lightest area. I don't know how you would balance that because you can see that the smoke is drifting into the black core, but you don't really look at the black core. You just look at everything else. And I just wanted to ask how you would draw attention to something dark, if that makes sense.
Well, let's dive into it.
More paintovers. Nice.
So you want black here in the middle. Oh, is that an eraser? That was an eraser. That's embarrassing. Okay, so here we go. So you want to start with a nice black core and then sort of build whatever you need around that. Um, Black is really great because it contrasts so nicely with everything else. So, you can have these things traveling sort of in front of it, whatever. Um, it's just going to be a lot cleaner and a lot easier to keep all of these layers separated.
Yeah.
You want your like, nice bright highlight, you know, right around it. Maybe even wider than that, just so that it feels super intense. yeah, the wider you go, the more intense it's going to make that black
Yeah.
feel. And then I'll do another layer still. This is just, again, like a really quick and dirty way to work. You want this to feel really good coming down. And so maybe, some of that black gets left in the trail. And again, is like super contrasty with the white. Um, you have the option of smudging that to make it feel like it's very fast.
Yeah.
So notice that it's only smudging on one axis, and then I can clean it up even better because it has a bit of scatter on that smudge brush. So I need to go in and clean up these edges to make them feel even more motion blurry coming down in. I can do a little bit of that. And, already it has a stronger sense of like punch to it. Now it's a matter of like, finessing what's going on around it. So if I can come up on top of everything, right? That's not on top of everything. Yeah, just can't get these shapes feeling good. Yeah, I can get rid of that other one that was like also on top of it. Um, I have such clunky brushes. I just reinstalled Photoshop and I think it reset my brushes. I updated
Oh,
Photoshop to the latest version, which is great. There's some fun new features, but no, whatever. Okay, so start getting all this going on, and then if you want to make the black hole itself feel cooler, you can like play around with that too. Like maybe it has, some things going on here.
1 second.
It's okay. All right. Back to some smudge. Again, just like the little bit of motion blur makes it feel like it's got like energy, motion, and power to it. It also holds true once you actually put the thing into motion.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be really nice if the actual texture itself has blur to it. Okay. Make sure I have my consistency. There we go. So yeah, you can start to see, you know, um, as we put this in here. Yeah, it just has a lot more centrality to it, a lot more focal
Yeah.
point to it. And so, yeah, I'd recommend something like that.
Okay.
Just higher contrast, bigger focal point, adding some directional blur. Right now, your blur is very radial. Like I would say on this trail here, this like triangular thing, it doesn't feel like it's moving. It feels more
Yeah.
like a beam of light because it's evenly blurred and it doesn't have any streakiness to it or any sense of like this here is just as blurred as this here.
Yeah.
So this tip should be like a long gradient easing into full here. Yeah.
Okay.
Same goes at the base of it. if you want this to feel like it's swirling or radiating outward. Right now I can't tell because it's evenly blurred. So either smudge it in spirals or smudge it in rays coming out, and then
Yeah,
use the eraser tool as well.
I think the colors in our part it's a bit bright. I posted another updated version where the colors at the bottom are a bit nicer, but yeah.
Not on
Uh,
this post though.
the way further down, I think below that.
I can't go down.
Oh, then I
Did
screwed
you
up
just post
somehow.
it?
No, no, a while back,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's okay.
Okay, bummer. Okay, we're good. We can move along. Yeah, the blood candy cane.
There was just the question like, how would you this is not finished at all, or I just stopped working on it, but how would you like make the focal point on top without adding more red, because I tried a brighter red or something, and it all felt really bad. So I stuck with the green because that was the last save I made because my PC shut down. But yeah,
Oh
I
man.
don't know. Just the colors. What would
Okay,
you use
so
there?
first thing is you chose a very challenging color palette. Green and red are obviously complementary, and so they vibrate against each other very easily if you're not careful. Secondly, I actually think you did a nice job by making the red darker. I think that was a very smart move. So the darker red works better against the brighter green than if you tried doing both of them bright. So that's kudos to you. You figured that one out. Now, the other tricky part though is that you've got two types of light, and I would actually recommend just going straight green light and not red light. Red is a tricky one when it comes to being additive or casting any kind of light. Getting red to look correct is the hardest of all the colors, in my opinion, because it immediately turns like sort of desaturated, pinkish very quickly. Vibrant red is only red when it's fully saturated. So, like, let's just look at this just to illustrate what I'm talking about. So, like, if we just look at the red up here, the only place on here that you see red is like up here in the
Yeah,
corner, right? As soon as you come over here, this is like pastel.
yeah,
This is probably easier to see. So this is pastel, and this is like brown. You see what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
down
yeah,
here feels more like brown than it does red. So the only place you get red that's recognizable as red is like up here and up. All this other area, like that feels like purple or something. And this is like pure red, but
yeah.
like I guess now it's pure red. Yeah, so it's tricky, right? Whereas with
Yeah,
like magenta, like that's a fun magenta, that's a fun deep magenta, that's like a sort of desaturated magenta. Same with blue, like these are all blue, they're just different
yeah.
blues. But with red, it like turns into something else completely very quickly.
So interesting.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So it's a tricky one. You just have to be aware of that. So what happens with red when you make it additive is it goes like this. It travels
Yeah,
along this line. So casting red light, the only way it's going to show up as clearly red is if you basically have it hitting the other things as the same color as what it's casting. Usually to get around this, what you see is mixing red with other things, like mix it with magenta, mix it with orange or yellow,
yeah,
to pull it off. Um, but you're limited there in options as well because once you're mixing it with blue, it just becomes purple. and etc. There was a whole tech talk that DreamWorks gave when they came to visit uh, my school. Let's see. Tai Lung escape. The sequence where Tai Lung escapes from prison, the sequence,
Ah, yeah.
they talked about what a nightmare it was as lighting artists because it was red and blue,
Yeah.
and they just kept getting purple. Um, so he's represented by the blue, and they're represented by the red. So it starts out with more red and less blue, and as the sequence goes, you know, the blue takes over,
Yeah.
and so um, it's 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 a very advanced, challenging thing to pull off, but they managed to do it without too much purple in there. But
Yeah.
it's not easy. Like you can even see here, the reds are blending into purples.
Yeah.
Um, but that's acceptable because the purple is a little more desaturated, so the red still pops. But anyway, back to your example, um, getting that red to feel correct as a source of light is a big challenge. And you just need to be aware of that. Blending it with its complementary color, green, makes the challenge even more severe. So I think you've gone a great route up here at the top with like the red being darker, and then it has like highlights of red so that you know that it's red. It's not just brown.
Yeah.
And then down here, it's odd that there's like red light coming out where this green light source isn't interacting with that at all. So
Yeah.
I think what this is more than anything is a fun exercise on color for you and lighting and like how to create that illusion of light. So honestly, I would say play around with yellow, play around with purple, play around with magenta as different alternates instead of green, and see what you get and see how it comes out. And you're going to start embedding more and more lessons about color theory in your head from that.
Okay, cool.
Now, there is the issue of how the rock is rendered. That's a whole thing. I would study hand painted rocks from like League of Legends or others. I did a fun study on, let's see if I can find that on my
I had
Twitter.
s- I had some reference from World of Warcraft. They have these flowing
Hmm.
blood orbs, but the picture was really bad, and yeah, I tried my best to to replicate that.
Yep, definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. Let's see, where was that? Yeah, I posted it here. So this was like a fun exercise of painting rocks where, uh, just like I think the sharper edges are going to help you out a lot
Yeah,
on yours. Right now, it's just all very evenly soft. I
yeah,
think carving out the face that's receiving that light and just making it crisp and playing with that, it's actually really fun and satisfying painting rocks. Just coming in with like a very crisp edged brush and then a crisp edged eraser and chiseling away these sorts of shapes. Every now
yeah.
and then they're a little fuzzy, but they're mostly sharp corners. And depending
Okay.
on how organic you want it to feel, you can make the outline of the stone very different from these inner shapes versus if it's more man-made, then the inner shapes are going to be just a beveled version of the outer
Yeah.
edge. Cool. All right. This one I love. I think this is really fun and successful. So, um, yeah,
Was
Stefan.
also not mine.
No, no, no. Yeah, Stefan, I think is good reference though. Like,
Yeah,
I think yours is nice. Oh, wait. Oh, it's not. None of it's yours. Sorry. All this is his.
yeah, yeah. I just posted the orb because I found I laughed a bit because he also tried to make a tornado shape.
Right, right, right.
It's all his work.
Sorry, I was confused. He's
Worries.
got he's got really cool stuff to reference though, like
Yeah,
the crisp shapes and the highlights and everything. the dynamic silhouette and all that are elements that you could incorporate. Cool.
Then let's skip this one. I think it was a
Okay.
little exercise and it doesn't look that good.
Yeah, this is coming along. So, oh, we've got a few different ones. Okay.
Yeah, I posted them all.
Nice. Blah. These are all very original. I like that a lot. Okay. I like that you've like taken the stuff in the class and then riffed on it and made it into something unique. All right. So on this one, I think the numbers are kind of a cop out because it's like I know it's going to explode because of the numbers. I think I think you could either do like a Ziggs bomb in League of Legends where it's like bounce, bounce, and then on the third bounce it just explodes. And maybe on the bounces before that it kind of like pulses a color, like it's like about to explode, it's getting ready to explode.
Yeah,
I think that could be cool. Like indicating that it's some kind of dangerous threat would be valuable in a lot of games.
this
Like,
birthday cake numbers don't help either.
yeah, like I think take the numbers out and embrace the challenge of making a timer that is purely visual and non-numerical.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so as for the explosion itself, though, some nice things are happening. It feels very much this is the one that feels a lot more one to one with what we have in the class.
yeah,
Okay, sorry if you can hear the crying kid in the background.
don't worry.
um, it's like a nice big flash. Yeah, I think the scorch mark on the ground
Yeah, it's
be a
a bit.
little less crisp all around, maybe like smudge out so it feels like it's scorched out. It's okay to have one crisp edge for showing the area of effect, but like maybe some of these you can fudge out a little bit. The dissolve on the ground is kind of cool. I kind of like that, the like lava-y bits in there. And I like how you have a focal point, like the hot point where it burned the hottest. It is just like very saturated red. You could probably tweak the colors a bit to get it to
Yeah,
feel a little more like soot as it like darkens out.
I have a huge problem with overdoing it with color nodes. I today I saw one of my color nodes was at 50 red or something, and that doesn't is
It's
that
pretty intense.
good? Yeah,
And yeah, as for the plume coming up, I think the problem you're going to run into there as a portfolio piece is that it's just so one to one with what we have in the class. So maybe take the knowledge you learned and try to make the fire move and animate and be shaped in a unique way. Otherwise, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's exactly what's in the class," and it doesn't feel like you were able to make it your own. Does that make
okay,
sense?
yeah,
Like we honestly don't mind if you use what's in the class any way you want. I'm just saying to make it more impressive as a portfolio
yeah,
piece. Okay, so nice job with the runes. I think that's really cool that they are, uh, you know, they're behaving as you would expect runes to do. Like they're more or less stationary and in a very geometric pattern. I think when it explodes, it's a shame that the runes themselves don't sort of like fly out.
yeah,
And the timing on it is a little even. So the runes sort of spin at the same rate constantly, and I would expect them to get like sort of like slow and then excited, or maybe like they're like moving quickly and then they slow down. Either way, it could be cool, but just some
Okay.
variety in there,
Yeah.
and then having them react to that explosion. The energy itself, I'm not really able to drink in what it is. Like it's just like whoop poof, and it's gone. Again, it's an even timing issue where the wind up is not clear. It's just kind of, it's hard to describe even. It's like it's there and then it's gone, and I don't know what happened or what caused it. You've got these
You, uh,
rings rotating around.
you do mean you don't really know when it will explode?
Yeah, well, I
Like,
don't know what the timing isn't clear, but also the physics of it isn't clear. Like the causation of it, the reasoning of like, is this wisp tightening in on it? Is there a vortex? Is there a vacuum in the center pulling everything in? I don't really know what's going on. And then the dissipation, I think, could have a little more follow through. The motion is actually really cool on that burst that you have. There's some really awesome elements and like bits and swirls that are like dissipating off. I just think it's animated so evenly. It's just, versus like or something. Pretty
okay.
cool. The lightning bolt I love. I think this is your strongest one. Um, oops, sorry. Yeah, the wind up on that is just so cool. The shimmering electricity coming up. And like it's coming to that point, it's drawing the eye. You've got a nice glow at the point, so I know exactly where you want me to look. And then it just the colors are fun and the dissipation and everything is just really great.
I have some problems with the bits. They don't really want to collide with anything. I think I have to do some research there. They just
Oh yeah.
fly through the ground, and I don't know why. I have a collision node there, but
Yeah, I think the bits are not the most convincing with how they're animated, partly because they're not colliding, but also um, they're sort of like lazy. Like the way they move is sort of slow at first. I would expect them to move much faster at first and then slow way down,
yeah.
especially with how hard that thing's getting hit. I think they're actually starting in a good spot. Like they're starting out away from the action like they should, but they don't have the oomph, and they're also not rotating, which feels weird too.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all just like doing
Sliding. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, they're sliding. This is fun. I like the wind up on this. It's like I think the rotation is weird. I'll be honest. It's weird because the material is not designed for rotation. The textures in the material are designed to just shoot straight out. They're
Yeah.
not. If they were rotating, they would be like twisted.
Yeah.
So
I
you could actually twist the mesh if you wanted. Like you could put like a in Maya, you can actually like put a lattice around it and then twist it,
yeah.
and so it'll have that spiraling shape to it.
And I think there's a node in the material where you can do little adjustments to the texture. Maybe that will help, but I wasn't really sure if I liked the rotation or not because the it looked weird because the mushroom was spinning and then everything was static. If you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
and you don't have to spin the mushroom. Could be the best way to solve that. You can squish it. You can you know have like a glow flash on it. There's a few different ways that you can show the anticipation there. I think the gathering goo could be a little more interesting. Like right now, um, the texture is sort of evenly gooified, right? It has like all these almost circular shapes in it. but it's not like stretching as it comes in. Like the tendrils are not like, you know, right now it's just like clumps coming in versus like stretched out. Because
Okay.
if a slime was moving that quickly, it would stretch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool stuff. Yes. These are fun at the end. I like all the variations that you do. I think the skull doesn't
Looks
need to
pro
be exactly the same color as the smoke because this is all monochromatic. Well, it's not monochromatic, it's bichromatic, has two colors, but it's the
yeah.
same exact two colors. So I would just say, it's okay to have like a more grayish skull or like a darker skull or something like that. And then, you know, when I mentioned on the forum of making it the energy source,
Yeah.
I was thinking like, it's fine to have it as like a focal point, and then, but you want to carry that focal point through. So if it's darker up here, then the top of this should be darker coming into this more acidic, vibrant color. Or if it's brighter up here, more additive, then the top of this goo pillar should be more additive down into the darker.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that the holistic color flows from being one at the top to a different one at the bottom as it
Mm,
transitions.
would you do that in the material? Like have an additional layer with a fade from light to dark over the texture, or how would you
Yeah,
do that?
that would be a great way to do it. You could also add particles on top of, you could change the texture in here, the material in here. That's pretty straightforward. Are you talking about just the material of the pillar?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be like an overlay that's like more additive, or you could add vertex color in the mesh as well. So in Maya, you can go to uh, the color properties of the vertices and like manually change them to be
Okay.
a certain way. All right, that's all the time we've got. You got any final questions?
Keep working.
You got enough to work on? I really like that at the end, by the way. It's worth saying these last two are really fun.
Yeah,
Like,
because I especially today I worked a lot on the Phoenix because it was so busy. I don't know. I don't like it that much.
I can tell it's a Phoenix now. I remember a version before where it wasn't clear what it was. I think it's great that you're being creative and trying to solve these bigger problems because it's going to stretch you and keep stretching you as you go. So nice work.
I guess my biggest problem is I really struggle with drawing, so I tend to avoid it. So if I
Mm,
need a new texture, I try to use existing textures and like materials and cascade so long until I completely fucked everything, and then I have to go back and draw anyways, and it's a
yep.
huge thing for me. um I changed the flipbook of the Phoenix Rising like dozens of times because I didn't like it, and yeah, I it's always a really hard push for me to do that.
I think that's great. You're challenging yourself. Just keep at it. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. It's not always easy. It doesn't always turn out pretty, but you got to get all that stuff out of the way so you can get onto the stuff you like.
Okay.
Cool, man. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you
We
so much.
will we will be in touch. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see ya.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.